The Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 5, Section 1, Epistles, first series. Note: before leaving for USA, Swamiji used to change his name very often. In earlier years, he signed as Narendra or Naren. Then, for some time, as Vivekananda or Sachidananda. But for the convenience of the readers, this volume used the more familiar name Vivekananda. Publisher 1. Allahabad, January 5th, 1890. My dear Fakir, a word for you. Remember always, I may not see you again. Be moral, be brave, be a heart-whole man. Strictly moral, brave unto desperation. Don't bother your head with religious theories. Cowards only sin. Brave men never. No, not even in mind. Try to love anybody and everybody. Be a man and try to make those immediately under your care, namely Ram, Mai, Krishna Mai, and Indu. Brave, moral, and sympathizing. No religion for you, my children, but morality and bravery. No cowardice, no sin, no crime, no weakness. The rest will come to itself. And don't take Ram with you ever or ever allow him to visit a theatre or any enervating entertainment whatever. Your affectionately, Vivekanand. My dear Ram, Krishnamai and Indu, bear in mind, my children, that only cowards and those who are weak commit sin and tell lies. The brave are always moral. Try to be moral, try to be brave, try to be sympathizing. Yours, Vivekanand. Bombay, 20th September 1892. Dear Pandit Ji Maharaj, your letter has reached me duly. I do not know why I should be servingly praised. None is good save one, that is God, as the Lord Jesus had said. The rest are only the tools in his hand. Gloria is excelsis. Glory unto God is the highest, and unto man that deserves, but not to such an undeserving one like me. Here the servant is not worthy of hire, and the fakir especially has no right to any praise whatsoever, for would you praise your servant for simply doing his duty. My unbounded gratitude to Pandit Sundarlalji and to my professor for this kind remembrance of me. Now I will tell you something else. The Hindu mind was ever deductive and never synthetic or inducive. In all our philosophies, we always find hair-splitting arguments, taking for granted some general proportions or propositions. But the proposition itself may be as childish as possible. Nobody ever asked or searched the truth of these general propositions. Therefore, independent thought we have almost none to speak of, and hence the death of those sciences which are the result of observation and generalization. And why was it thus? From two causes: the tremendous heat of the climate forcing us to love rest and contemplation contemplation better than activity, and the Brahmins has priests never undertaking journey or voyages to distant land. There were voyages and people who traveled far, but they were almost always traders, that is, people from whom priestcraft and their own soul love for gain had taken away all capacity for intellectual development. So, their observation, instead of adding to the store of the human knowledge, rather degenerated it, for their observation were bad and their accounts exaggerated and tortured into fantastical shapes until they passed all recognition. So you see, we must travel, we must go to foreign parts, we must see how the engine of society works in the other countries and keep free and open communication with what is going on in the minds of the other nation. If we really want to be a nations again, and over and above all, we must seize the tyrannies to what an ludicrous state are we brought. If a bhangi comes to anybody as a bhangi, he would be stunned as a plug. But no sooner does he get a cup full of water poured upon his head with some muttering of prayers by the padri and get the coat on his back, no matter how threadbare, and come into the room of the most orthodox Hindu. I don't see the man who then dare refuse him a chair and a hearty shake of the hands. Irony can go no further. And come and see what the Padris, are doing here in the Dakshin, that is south. They are converting the lower caste by lakhs, and in Travancore Travancore, the most priest ridden country in India, where every bit of land is owned by the Brahmins. Nearly one fourth has become Christian, and I cannot blame them. What part have they in David? And what is Jess? When, O Lord, shall man be brother to man? Yours, Vivekanand. Third, Oriental Hotel, Yokohama, 10th July 1893. Dear Allah Singh Balaji, GG, Banking Corporation, and all my Madras friends. Excuse my not keeping you constantly informed of my movement. One is so busy every day, and especially myself, who am quite new to the life of possessing things and taking care of them. That consumes so much of my energy, it is really an awful botheration. From Bombay, we reached Colombo. Our steamer remained in port for nearer the whole day, and we took the opportunity of getting off to have a look at the town. We drove through the streets, and the only thing I remember was a temple in which was a very gigantic murti of Lord Buddha in the reclined position entering Nirvana. The next station was Penang, which is only a strip of land along the sea in the body of Malaya Peninsula. The Malayas are all Mohammedans and in old days were noted pirates and quite a dread of merchantmen. But now the Leviathan guns of modern turreted battleship have forced the Malayas to look about for more peaceful pursuit. On our way from Penang to Singapore, we had glimpse at Sumatra with its high mountains, and the captain pointed out to me several places as the favorite haunt of pirates in days gone by. Singapore is the capital of the strange settlements. It has a fine botanical garden with the most splendid collection of palms. The beautiful fan-like palm, called the traveler's palm, grows here in abundance, and the breadfruit tree everywhere. The celebrated mangostan is and plentiful here, has mangoes in Madras, but mango in non-peril. But mango is non-peril. The people here are not half so dark as the people of Madras, although so never the line. Singapore possesses a fine Muslims too. Hong Kong next. You feel that Hong Kong next. You feel that you have reached China. The Chinese system, Chinese element predominates so much. All labor, all trades seem to be in their hands, and the Hong Kong is a real China. As soon as the steamer cast anchor, you are besieged with hundreds of Chinese boats to carry you to the land. These boats with two helms are rarely peculiar. The boatman leaves the boat with his family. Almost always, the wife is at the helms, managing one with her hand and other with her feet. And in 90% of the cases, you find a baby tied to her back. With the hand and the feet of the little chin left free, it is a quiet sight to see the little John Cinnamon dangling very quietly from the mother's back, whilst she is now settling with might and many, now pushing heavy loads and or jumping with wonderful agility from boat to boat. And there is such a rush of boats and steam launches coming and going out. Baby John is every moment put into the risk of having his little head pulverized, pigtail and all. But he does not care a fig. This busy life seems to have no charm for him, and he is quite content to learn the anatomy of a bit of rice cake given to him from time to time by the madly busy mother. The Chinese child is quite a philosopher and calmly goes to work at an age when your Indian boy can hardly crawl four, on all fours. He has learnt the philosophy of necessity too well. Their extreme poverty is one of the cause why the Chinese and the Indians have remained in the state of mummified civilization. To an ordinary Hindu or Chinese, everyday necessity is too hideous to allow him to think of anything else. Hong Kong Hong Kong is a very beautiful town. It is beautiful on the slopes of hill and on the tops too, which are much cooler than the city. There is an almost perpendicular tram tramway going to the top of the hill, dragging by wire rope and steam power. We remained 3 days at Hong Kong and went to see Canton, which is 80 miles up a river. The river is broad enough to allow bigger steamers to pass through. A number of Chinese steamers ply between the Hong Kong and Canton. We took passage on one of these in the evening and reached the Canton early in the morning. What a scene of bustle and life! What an immense number of boats almost covering the waters, and not only those that are carrying on the trade, but hundreds of others which serve as houses to live in, and quite a lot of them so nice and big. In fact, they are big houses, 2 or 3 stories high, with veranda running round and streets between and all floating. We landed on the strip of the ground given by a Chinese government to foreigner to live in. Around us, on both sides of the river for miles and miles, is a big city, a wilderness of human being, pushing, struggling, surging, roaring. But with all its population, all its activity, it is the driest town I saw. not in the sense in which a town is called dirty in India, for as to that not a speck of filth is allowed by the Chinese to go west, but because of the Chinaman who has, it seems, taken a vow never to bath. Every house is a shop, people living only on the top floor, and the street are very, very narrow, so that you almost touch the shop on both the side as you pass. At every 10 pace, at every 10 paces, you find meat stalls, and there are shops where sell cats and dogs meat. Of course, only the poorest classes of Chinamen eat dogs and cat. The Chinese ladies can never be seen. They have got a strict zenana as the Hindus of North India. Only the women of the laboring classes can be seen. Even amongst them, one sees now and then a woman with feet smaller than those of your young children. And of course, they cannot be said to walk, but hobble. I went to see several Chinese temples. The biggest in Canton is dedicated to the memory of the first Buddhistic empire and the 500 first disciple of Buddhism. The central figure is of course Buddha, and the next beneath him is seated the emperor, and ranging on both sides are the statues of the disciples, all beautifully carved out of wood. From Canton, I returned back to Hong Kong and from thence to Japan. The first port we touched was Nagasaki. We landed for a few hours and drove through the town. What a contrast! The Japanese are one of the cleanest people on the world. Everything is neat and tidy. Their streets are neatly all board, straight and regular paved. Their little houses are cages like, and their pine covered every evergreen. Little hills from the ground background of almost every town and village. The short sorted, fair skinned, quantity dressed Japs, their movements, attitude, gesture, and everything is picture quicks. Japan is the land of picture quick. Almost every house has a garden at the back, very nice laid out according to Japanese fashion, with small shrubs, glass plots, grass plots, small artificial waters, and small stone bridges. From Nagasaki to Kobe, here I gave up the steamer and took the land route to Yokohama with a view to see the interior of Japan. I have seen three big cities in the interior: Osaka, a great manufacturing town; Kota, Kyoto, the former capital; and Tokyo, the present capital. Tokyo is nearly twice the size of Calcutta, with nearly double of the population. No foreigner is allowed to travel in the interior without a passport. A Japanese, a Japanese seem now to have fully awakened themselves to the necessity of the present times. They have now a thoroughly organized army equipped with guns, which one of their own officers has invented, and which is said to be the second of to none. Then they are continually increasing their navy. I have seen a tunnel nearly a mile long, bored by the Japanese engineers. The match factories are simply a sight to see, and they are bent upon making everything they want in their own country. There is Japanese line of steamers plying between China and Japan, which shortly intended running between Bombay and Yokohama. I was quite a lot of temple. In every temple there was some Sanskrit mantras written in old Bengali character. Only a few of the priests know Sanskrit, but they are an intelligent sect. The modern rage for progress has penetrated even the priesthood. I cannot write what I have in my mind about Japan Japanese in one short letter. Only I want that. Number of your young men should pay a visit to Japan and China every year, especially to the Japanese. India is still the dreamland of everything high and good. And you, what you are, what are you? Talking twaddle all your lives. Vain talkers, what are you? Come, see these people and see these people and melted. And I have now to fight against the impossibility. 100 times I had a mind to go out of the country and go back to India. But I am determined and I have called from above. I see no way but his eyes see, and I must stick to my guns, life or death. Just now I am living as a guest of an old lady in the village near Boston. I accidentally made her acquaintance in the railway train, and she invited me to come over and live with her. I have an advantage in living with her, in saving for some time my expenditure of per day. Of my expenditure per day, and she has the advantage of inviting her friend over her and showing them a curio from India. And all this must be borne, starving, cold, hotting in the street on account of my quaint dress. These are what I have to fight against. But, my dear boy, no great thing were ever done without great labor. Know, then, that this is a land of Christians, and any other influence than that is almost zero. Nor do I care a bit for the enmity of any anist in the world. I am here among us the children of the Son of Mary, and the Lord of Jesus will help me. They like much the broad views of Hinduism and my love for the Prophet of Nazareth. I tell them that I preach nothing against the great one of the Galilee. I only ask the Christian to take in the great ones of India along with the Lord Jesus, and they appreciate it. Winter is approaching, and I shall have to get all sort of warm clothings, and we require more warm clothings than the natives. Look sharp, my boy. Take courage. We are destined by the Lord to go to do great things in India. Have faith. We will do. We, the poor and the despised, who really feel and not those. In Chicago, the other day, a funny thing happened. The Raja of Kapurthala was here, and he was being lionized by some portion of Chicago society. I once met the Raja in the fairgrounds, but he was too big to speak with the poor fakir. There was an eccentric Maharata Brahmin selling nail-made pictures or in the fair, dressed in the dhoti. This fellow told the reporters all sort of things against the Raja, that he was a man of low caste and those Rajas were nothing but slaves and that they generally led immoral life, etc. And this truthful editor, for which America is famous, wanted to give to the boy's story some weight, and so next day they wrote huge column in their paper about description of a man of wisdom from India, meaning me, extolling me to the skies and putting all sort of words in my mouth which I never even dreamt of, and ascribing to me all those remarks made by the Maratha Brahman about the Raja of Kapurthala. And it was such a good brushing that Chicago society gave up the Raja in hot haste. This newspaper editor made capital out of me to give my countrymen a brushing. That shows, however, that in this country intellect carries more weight than all the prompt of money and title. Yesterday, Mrs. Johnson, the lady superintendent of the women's prison, was here. They don't call it prison, but reformatory here. It is a grandness they thing I have seen in America. How the inmates are benevolently treated, how they are reformed and sent as useful members of the society. How grand, how beautiful you must see it to believe. And oh, how my heart ached to think of what we think of poor, the low in India. They have no chance, no escape, no way to climb up. The poor, the low, the sinner in India have no friends, no help. They cannot rise, try however they may. They sink lower and lower every day. They feel the blows showered upon them by the cruel society, and they do not know whence the blow comes. They have forgotten that they too are men, and the result is slavery. Thoughtful people within the few last years have seen it, but unfortunately laid it at the door of the Hindu religion and to them. The only way of battering is by crushing this grandest religion of the world. Hear me, my friend. I have discovered the secret to the grace of Lord. Religion is not in fault. On the other hand, your religion teaches you that every being is only your own self multiplied. But it was the want of the practical application, the want of sympathy, the want of heart. The Lord once more came to you as Buddha and taught you how to feel, how to sympathize with the poor and the miserable, the sinner, but you heard him not. Your priest invented the horrible story that the Lord was here for deluding demons with false doctrines. True indeed, but we are the demons and not those that believed. And just as the Jews denied the Lord Jesus and are since that day wandering over the world as homeless beggars, tyra- tyrannized over by everybody, so you are the bond slaves to any nation that think to it worth while to rule over you. Tyrants who tyrants, you do not know that the observer is tyrant and the reverse is slavery. The slave and the tyrant are synonyms. Balaji and Gigi may remember one evening at the Pondicherry. We were discussing the matter of the sea voyage with the Pandit, and I shall always remember his brutal gesture and his kadapina, kadabina. Never. They do not know that India is a very small part of the world, and the whole world look down with up, contempt upon the fair, contempt upon the fair, contempt, contempt upon the 300 millions of earthworm crawling upon the fair soil of India and trying to oppress each other. This state of things must be removed, not by destroying religion, but by following the great teachings of Hindu faith and joining with it the wonderful sympathy of that logical development of Hindustan or Hinduism and Buddhism. The hundred thousands men and women, fired with the zeal of the holiness, fortified with the eternal faith in the Lord, and nerved to lion's courage by their sympathy for the poor and the fallen and the downtrodden, will go over the length and breadth of the land, preaching the gospel of salvation, the gospel of health, the gospel of social raising up, the gospel of equality. No religion on earth preaches the dignity of humanity in such a lofty strain as Hinduism, and no religion on earth trends upon the neck of the poor and the low is in such a fashion as Hinduism. The Lord has shown me that religion is not in fault, but it is the Pharisees and Sadducees in Hinduism, the hypocrites who invent all sort of engines of trickery in the shape of doctrine of paramarthika and vyavaharika. Paramarthika and Vyavaharika.